Morning, everybody. Hope you're having a fantastic day. I am Paul Provo, founder and president of 6P Marketing. Suffice to say, I've been in the advertising and marketing world for around 20 years and worked with hundreds of companies. I still love what I do, and my favorite thing to do is to define marketing programs for great people and then help them execute on them. Also with me today is Faramir Hakamzada, our senior brand strategist. She's been with us 8.5 years and is a brilliantly talented individual, as I'm sure you'll find out soon. Both our long form bios are on LinkedIn, of course, so you're welcome to join us there. A couple of admin things before we get going. This is a recorded session and it will be available afterwards for those attending. And if you have questions, please feel free to put it into the Q&A component of the tab, because we will be answering a few select questions if we have time, if we don't drone on too much. All right, so let's get into this. I want to start by saying kudos to you for taking the time to attend this event. In my opinion, simply looking and being curious to learn about this topic gives you a 25% greater chance of achieving your marketing goals. Our approach to marketing is based on a few key principles that we've found help maximize results. We collaborate closely with our clients. Our marketing expertise and your industry expertise have been found to be very successful mix. We apply a practical business and goal-oriented approach to planning. We leverage our collective experiences. We consider all facets of the company, not singularly the advertising program. And we ensure the plan is configured to achieve organizational goals which are aligned with available marketing resources and funds. And on this, of course, if you need help to do the plan, we're here for you. Amongst our team of nearly 40 marketing specialists, we have 3 full-time strategists on our team, each with skills and education necessary to develop marketing plans and solve complex brand challenges. We're fortunate to have 3 people here that have nearly each 10 years and one with over 20 years of experience doing this. Key to our firm is our collaborative approach, where we work closely with our clients to develop the plans. This not only makes for better plans, but improves the likelihood of successful adoption. One of the things that makes our strategy team quite good is that they are immersed in a company that executes on those plans. So they see the results. They are complemented with designers, online marketers, web developers, media planners, writers, content personnel, marketing managers and directors, creative directors, and etc. And so now on to our webinar. Today, we aim to help you such that you can actually do a plan for yourself, or at least understand the key components enough that you can contract the work with someone else and or know what you need to do. In doing so, we will provide wisdom obtained over 20 years of doing them, and probably over 200 plus related plans and brand projects for a wide variety of companies across Canada. Our goal is to share best practices so you are aware of them and can appreciate the importance, and perhaps a few of you may entrust us to assist you in developing a plan or supporting you in their execution. So now I will hand it over to Faramir, who will start with our agenda and a quick poll question for you.
Thank you, Paul. Okay, so let's get into this webinar. Today we're going to take you through a few pieces. First, let's start with why and how marketing planning benefits you. Then we're going to take you through a list of key components of a marketing planning. As I'm doing that, I will take you through the hallmarks of effective marketing planning. That's, the experience that we bring and some lessons that we've learned. We're going to end with your questions and we're going to answer all of those. So feel free to put your questions in the Q&A as we go. We're going to get to them in the end. Okay. First question is ours to ask you. So we are going to launch a poll. It's a very simple question. We're going to start with just understanding where you are in your journey. So let's see. Do you have a marketing plan? Yes, no, in the works. Choose one of those answers. We're always interested to start with a question. We want to understand who we're speaking with. It would be interesting for you to also understand what your peers' process is or where they're coming from. So let's give it another few seconds. You have a marketing plan, yes, no, or it's in the works. Okay, pretty well kind of variety here. Some of you have, some of you do not, and some of you know that it is in the works. So what we're going to take you through is going to allow you to take advantage of what we share, no matter where you are in your process. But let's start with how a marketing plan benefits you. We are going to share 6 ideas here. I'm sure you can come up with more, but these are the things that we see very often when we're dealing with organizations like yourselves. First of all, we know that the idea of growth is in all of our leadership's heads, and it's very helpful for us to be aligned with those goals. So when you hear an organization or a CEO or a top leader talk about growth, the first thing that comes to our mind is, okay, what is the marketing plan that is going to be achieving that for us? And let's be aligned that way. So wherever you hear growth, we think about marketing, and we're going to talk about that a bit more as well. We also see a lot of organizations who are kind of stuck in the reinvention and reevaluation kind of process, where they develop a piece and they like it and it's doing well, but the next time they're going to do something similar, it feels like they have to rethink everything and come back to the drawing table. So it's very efficient if you have a marketing plan, because it allows you to not reinvent, but actually have your directions already set out, and then just come back with new communication pieces as opposed to going back to the drawing table. And sharing the responsibilities ends up being much easier with a marketing plan. As organizations grow, they often find that they need to transition the knowledge of marketing or decentralize it from 1 or 2 of their leaders. Very often, smaller organizations have that kind of built in the president. The president goes out, gets those, leads, and comes back. But as they grow, they find that the president does not have the time to do that. Or as the marketing groups grow, it's also very hard for marketing leaders to do that for the team. So how can we make sure that that information is somewhere, everybody have access to it, and it is decentralized and everybody can share? You might have been dealing with a lot of expectations that you and your marketing team needs to respond to. Very easy to get jotted down with that sort of thing, because it's not exactly a 1+1 scenario very often. So how do we make sure that what we are expected to do is actually matching the resources we are given to do that? That's what marketing planning does for you. It puts those 2 pieces of the equation together and allows you to say, well, if you need this from me, I need this from you, and kind of brings that together and makes it more feasible. As you move forward with your journey of marketing, you need to make sure you're doing it right. So marketing plan allows you to have the system in place where you're measuring your success and you're optimizing as you go. It's harder to just do things and later look at them and wonder whether it was a good idea or not. We very often work with organizations that sometimes say, so-and-so comes up with these great ideas, we do them, we don't know if it's working, but we have been doing them forever. So let's make sure we measure and optimize as we go, and marketing plan does that for you. And it's no surprise to anyone working in our field that it is a lot of stress if you have misunderstandings between you and team, if your goals are not aligned, if your expectations are not aligned with your resources. So the idea of a marketing plan is also to take away some of that worry and stress and make sure that you are, you have something in your written on a piece of paper that is going to be supporting you in your decisions moving forward. So those are the six things I wanted to share. Again, I'm sure you can come up with more. We deal with each of these issues and problems when our clients come to us, and sometimes it is very simple. With a marketing plan, it becomes much less hard. So these are the core components of your marketing plan. We propose to you the simplest marketing plan you can put together needs to have these 7 pieces. I want to take you through them, and I know that it can be sort of customized and built based on what your organization does. And we're going to touch on each of them and discuss a little bit of best practices about each of them. So starting with growth goals and strategies. This is where I want to ask you another question. It is, again, not a hard one. What are your organization's growth expectations over the next 3 years? There is an answer that says, I'm not sure. But if you know enough to answer it, 0 up to 5%, 5 to 20%, 20 to 50%, or even more. And of course, staying flat. So this kind of aligns with what you are hearing from your leaders, what sort of expectations you might be given, what your strategic plan might be saying. The last meeting you had with your bosses, maybe they mentioned something like this, or you're aware of, purchasing another organization that would exponentially grow your business. Any of those should give you a clue. Excellent. It's good to see a healthy growth in most of the people in this webinar today. It's not often that we see a 50% plus growth in these questions, but also we know that 20 to 50% is pretty aggressive. So yeah, it feels like we're all looking at somewhat of a growing phase in our businesses, which is good to see. So when we talk about something like that, then that allows us to connect some dots for you. So again, growth language is very often more easily endorsed by our leaders. They talk about, we need to get from this place to that place. That's our goal. That's our growth that we're looking for. So let's make sure that we're connecting growth to sales and sales to marketing, because it is a very direct line and it allows you to speak the language that the leaders want to hear. Always growing comes with efforts in or investments in sales and marketing. So that gets me to my first hallmark of effective marketing planning, which is look for the paved road. What do we mean by that? So you might have been heard strategic planning and strategy, and those buzzwords sometimes kind of gets annoying. But the point of a strategy is you are at a point today and you are heading towards a goal that you have identified. What is the best path to get there, right? That's the point of having a strategy. So growth strategies are different. They can be different ways of taking that path. And not every strategy is going to be the right one for you. So for example, when you are looking at a strategy that is going to increase your existing customers' share of wallet. So share of wallet means that they need to spend more of their own money on you. Or with you, that tells you that your target market is your existing customers, right? So you are thinking about a growth, but you know that the way to get to that growth and the strategy, the paved road that you're going to be taking is through your existing customers. So that allows you to immediately have a better understanding of where you're going and how you can get there easier, faster. Other, strategies could be lowest hanging fruit. So when you're entering new markets, you do not necessarily look at that entire market as equal opportunities. Some of them are easier, most immediate opportunities. So let's take those opportunities, let's think of them as the target markets, and let's have that strategy in mind as you go. So look for the paved way. Don't just enter the path without having this conversation or discussion. Marketing objectives is the second component I want to talk about. So this is one of my favorite questions I would like to ask very many of my clients, what does success look like to you? And very often they come back with, this is the revenue increase we want to see, or this is a customer acquisition that we want to see. And that's great. That is what we talked about, the growth goals. Now, as marketers, we also want to think about another level of success, which is our marketing performance and progress. That is our marketing objectives. So connecting these two together, as I just mentioned, is going to be the key here. When your revenue goals or customer acquisition goals might look something like this, in this year, I'm going to have total revenue of this much, that's 10% increase or 20%, or maybe those numbers are in terms of new clients or existing clients coming back or something like that, then your marketing performance and progress objectives might look something like this. So you are looking for indicators that would give you an understanding of your tactics that are working. When you understand that your creative approach is right, when you are actually reaching the people you need to reach, and it does help you optimize your marketing approach. It could be as easy as how many people are going to our website. What sort of email newsletter subscriptions are we seeing, or have we been able to have those meetings set up with new potential clients? What are some media mentions we've had? So depending on what your marketing program or plan is going to bring to you, you can then convert that to what your marketing performance and progress should look like. So it also helps you to not necessarily take the entire onus of revenue increase on your marketing efforts, because that's not sometimes a direct line. Sometimes it is very much affected by, the environment that you're in, your market, your sector, political issues, all sorts of different things, right? So how do you measure your marketing success? Your marketing performance indicators can help you do that. And that takes me to my second hallmark, which is what gets measured gets managed. There's no question that you need to be measuring as you go. We suggest measuring your marketing performance monthly and have a team discussion and review it quarterly. Again, it's sometimes very easy to think about your marketing, just your social media efforts or your newsletter subscriptions. Try to think beyond that. Try to also think about how your website is doing, how your trade show efforts were working or not working, and how your teams, encounter with your clients are going. So every piece of the tactics that you're going to put together is going to be helpful for you to measure. Third piece would be highest priority audience profile. And that might be a bit of a mouthful, but really what we're talking about is the bullseye audience that we need to connect with. So keep that always in mind. When you're thinking target audience, you want to think this way. When you're strategizing, writing and designing your communications, who is the highest priority individual you are speaking to or attempting to make a connection with? That sometimes is not your customer per se, right? So when you define it this way, especially in the not-for-profit world, or when your product is not necessarily a tangible product, this is a better way of thinking about your target audience. It defines it easier for you. And if you're targeting everybody, you are reaching nobody. That is our third hallmark that I wanted to share with you. And what do we mean by that? The point of prioritization is to make sure that you are implying to a group of people that what you are developing or what you have to offer is going to be what they are looking for. So when you're saying this is, something that everyone can use, it means that your service and product appeals to no one in particular. It also reduces your chances of success because everybody does not see things the same way. The same creative whether it's messaging, brand, or look does not appeal to everyone the same way, you're kind of trying to achieve a very, very hard thing, right? So we want to be a bit more mindful of what your success needs to be. And also, it's very expensive. It's very expensive to talk to everybody. How can we prioritize? Some questions that you can ask yourself is, who is your ideal audience? If you could choose, if you could think about your audiences today, the people that you have to communicate to, and define one individual or kind of company or whatever thing that you can kind of imagine in your head. Who is that ideal audience? That's one of the ways that you can find your priority target audience. Also very helpful for you to think about who can I reach at lower cost or who can I persuade with less effort, right? So that allows you to think about your resources and use them better. So always prioritize as you move forward. When you have a prioritized definition for your customers or your target audiences, then it's very helpful for you to develop a customer profile. So this is what we like to include in our customer profile. I will tell you a little bit about it as I take you through it. So demographics could be very much, from their organizational titles all the way to their income, gender, or even the locations that you need to find them at. Psychographics can be a bit further down the path of understanding their common values, understanding the concerns, understanding their technology adoption, levels, and whatever that's relevant to the topic that you have in your organization. And then further to that, we also like to discuss when does the buyer purchase. So purchase triggers are very important. You can, again, use purchase in quotation. Sometimes it is not purchase of a product, but purchase of an idea or, acknowledgement of an idea. So what happens that takes them to you or brings them to you? There might be issues or certain opportunities. They might be actual incidents, or maybe it is just a seasonal timing that you have. And then how do they evaluate you? This allows you to understand them better. So 3 pieces of that puzzle that we always put together is 1, purchase criteria. So what are the criteria that those people use to compare the offering of one provider to another? So it could be they make that decisions based on their price. Sometimes it's not just as easy as just price today, but it is cost of ownership. So during the time that they own that product, is it going to be worth it for them? Sometimes it's simply reputation or somebody has rated you, right? The other piece to this puzzle is you understanding, should be good. Yes. Something popped up on my screen, sorry. So you understanding that what you're putting in front of the audiences, or what are they looking for? So resources and information sources that they would go to. How do they become aware of different providers' existence? And the last piece would be, who do they go to when they have a question? Where do they get the advice on what provider to use? So who are those opinion influencers? These are all different pieces that we put together when we are profiling a target audience. It goes a bit deeper than your, simple demographics. Okay, I think I'm doing good with time. Let's go to the 4th one, marketing, messaging, and tone. When you're positioning your brand, this is one of my favorite ways of defining what that works. So how that works. So first of all, you're thinking about your customers or your target audience's needs, right? So you know who they are. We just talked about how to profile that and how to understand that. Then you also know your company or organization's capabilities. So there is a place where you know that you can offer things that your customers and audiences need. And that's a good place to start. However, for you to be differentiating, to, take over some market space from your competitors, it's also helpful for you to think, what does your competitor offering look like? So in this diagram, as you see it, the sweet spot is really where you can overlap what your customers need what you can provide and what your competitors are not offering. It's always helpful to think about it that way. And that's our door to the messaging, tone, and personality conversation. So as you figure that out, then you can, for example, come up with a message that says, we strive to help you gain more insight from your data anytime, anywhere. So what does that mean? That means that your organization has the capability to bring this to your customers. So you have that, capability of being there anytime and anywhere. Great. You also, with this message, is basically saying that your customers do care about this thing. So if they want that from you, they want it anytime and anywhere. It actually is beneficial for them if you can offer that. So that's a need that they come to you with. And also this tone, helpful and eager, is where you position yourself. So now if everybody you're competing with would be able to do the same thing, have that sort of data accessible anytime and anywhere, then that's probably not a differentiating positioning and not a great message, right? So, so the idea is, again, to kind of overlap the needs, your capabilities, and put your sweet spot of positioning where your competitors cannot be. As you're doing that, make sure that you're thinking about simplicity, because as we love this quote, simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. Always think of less is more. Developing those messages would be kind of bringing you a whole lot of list of things that you want to say that you think is very important for you to say. So our recommendation to you is you kind of need top 3 key messages. That's it. Think about 3. They need to be simple, short, and they need to be clear. And when you're thinking about your tone, our best practices that we like to focus on 4-dimensional personality traits. So that kind of gives you uncomplicated, replicable, and consistent. Meaning, when you make it more complicated, it's harder for somebody to grab that tone and move forward with it the same way. So think 3 key messages, think 4-dimensional personality traits. Okay. And now we are at marketing tactics. This is very much defined as the core of your marketing plan. This is the medium through which you are going to then be reaching the highest priority audiences that we discussed. So we know where we're going with our growth goals. We have objectives aligned with that are marketing objectives and would dictate what our role is to get to those growth goals. We know who we're trying to reach out to through profiling our highest priority audience profiles. We know what to say to them with what tone when we get in front of them. And now, how do we actually reach them? Where are they, and how can we make sure that the mediums we pick is going to reach them where we want them? So getting in front of your target audiences can be done with multiple different ways. It could be all the way, through your trade shows. Also think about your website as one of your marketing tactics. Sometimes you have special promotions or limited time offers that you can kind of use as mediums to attract them. Direct mailers are the ones that you can create and send and actually mail to them. Sometimes also when you're thinking about your marketing tactics, you need to think about those speaking engagements and webinars as well, right? So where are you and how are you taking advantage of those sort of mediums to reach your audiences? So think broader than your, 1 or 2 promotional tactics that you might have, which also takes me to this hallmark, which is throw more than money at your marketing. What do we mean by that? You have internal resources, and we propose to you that very often organizations think about their marketings within not all 4 of these pieces of the sphere in front of you, but maybe 1 or 2 only. So starting from the top, I want to talk to you about marketing material and resources. that is a piece that you need to be mindful of. These are foundational resources that you need for your success. This might be your brand strategy, might be your logo kit. They usually are one-time material developments, so it's helpful for you to think about them that way, but also make sure that you have them so it allows for you to then, work based on that foundational resource that you have. Second piece would be tools of organization and planning. Again, as marketers, we deal with a whole lot of moving pieces, and very often the organizations that we work with struggle with that. So developing those tools that helps them organize themselves, and also actionable steps that would come together. This could be, as easy as, for example, your social media strategy allows for that. It gives you I don't know, maybe 20 different topics that you can rotate and you can use in your social media. It gives you frequency and other set tools. So it allows you to do your job better, and it makes your marketing efforts more actionable. So you don't start from scratch each time, but you have a base that would plan your efforts and you have the tools to do it. Promotional strategies come to everyone's mind first. These are the ones that you get to, pay to reach your audiences. It could be your advertising efforts. It could be, the media buys that you will have. It could be your outdoor material, and yeah. So think about them as a piece of the puzzle, but not everything. So when you're designing your marketing plan, you're not spending all your money and time on buying a bunch of ads, but you're actually setting yourself up with all the tools and material that then would help support what those ads are going to bring to your organization in terms of leads. And events and presence, sometimes that becomes the sole piece of marketing in some sales-oriented organizations, where you're going to trade shows and you need support when you go to those trade shows. So sometimes that needs to be only a piece. Other times it's bigger than one piece. It is a major component of your presence out there. But also think about, speaking engagements, or further exposure through your signage. Maybe sometimes organizations are placed in very busy buildings or streets, and they are not mindful of what their sign can do for them in terms of awareness. So think about that as a bit of your more holistic, where are we and how can we reach people via our physical presence. So that kind of gives you the basis to identify a long list of highest potential tactics that your marketing planning needs to have put in place. So think about it as, okay, now I have these spheres. Let's use that tool and let's develop a long list of what tactics might work for us, whether it is webinars or collaboration with organizations that have speaking engagements, all the ways to, I need some tools that will support my designers. I need some tools that will support my social media manager. I need some bases to go with, and have that kind of set down. And then you got to prioritize it. It's always easy to have that long list, but then hard to accomplish it. So how can we prioritize and make sure that we know some pieces are for now, some pieces are for later, and that's how you can make that a bit more actionable for yourselves. When you are developing your marketing plan, think about your marketing tactics, not just as, items on a list, but a bit more description sometimes helps. For example, why do you think that tactic is a priority, a rationale behind it? What are the 3 steps that you need to start from when you're producing that tactic? When do you think this needs to be in the market, and how much time does it take for you to produce it? So you have to kind of back plan that and make sure that you have enough time to develop it for the time you want it to be in market. And when you're taking your marketing planning to your team or your leaders and wanting to get it approved, there's always needs to be a budget attached to pieces so they can frame it in their heads and understand what sort of investment each of these tactics will require from them. And this is also where you can set that expectation, right? So when you are asked to develop some sort of presence out there, and this is a tactic that you are suggesting is going to do that, the rationale behind why, the steps that will be taken, the time that you need, and then the money that, or, you know, all sorts of investment, whether it is financial investment or not, is also very helpful. Which gets me to my next point, which is about the investment. So financial and human resources that are required to accomplish what you have set out in your marketing plan to do. What you need and what budget you have very often does not gets balanced. And we deal with this all the time. We see our clients deal with this all the time. And it's helpful for you to think about it in these frameworks. So both think about the hours it takes and the budget, the actual money that it takes. So hours might be, you know, I need to have these many staffs internally, and I might need some external supports because I don't have that much time internally to achieve this. And also when it comes to the actual dollar amounts, whether it is third-party pay or an agency that you're paying for, or even you're thinking about your own team's salary, it's helpful for you to put it in the budget number too. So think of both. Think of your hours and your, you know, actual time investment that your team or other teams would put in, and think of the money. And then what you are putting together for your budget and what you think you need can very much kind of be put side to side with what your sector usually uses. And that allows you to compare it with your industry benchmarks. There are multiple resources out there to do that. One of our favorite ones is the CMO survey, and that kind of gives you some information about what sort of budgets marketing organizations use generally, what percentage of their sales or revenue is that. It is surprisingly higher than what organizations often think. So bringing that to your leaders when you're getting your product, your marketing plans approved, is a supporting way of saying, again, we need the resources to be able to accomplish what our goals are. Just keep in mind that CMO survey is mostly data from the US. We often see a lot of similarity between the two, but there are some resources that sometimes you can get that is closer to home or local, or it's specific to your market. And you heard me talk about take this to your leader and have them involved, because our sixth hallmark is very much focused on this. Leadership consensus is half of the battle. We find our clients very often are, you know, kind of looking for certain results, but half of their challenge is to make sure that the people who get these, you know, marketing plans approved or get the budget approved, or even the people that are going to then use them and work on them in their sales departments or else, need to believe in them and needs to actually be interested in being part of this. So it is very important for us to be mindful when we are developing the marketing plan that we're putting together. Who should we involve, and how can we make sure our leaders are going to be receptive to what we come up with? It's very hard to put something in front of them and then ask them to just be okay with it. So we suggest involving these leaders, and this is our selection criteria when we want to involve them. We often put this in front of clients and we ask them, you know, in our first planning session, for example, bring people with deep knowledge about the company. So somebody who knows who we serve and what business strategy we have and what our past marketing efforts will look like. Also bring those who are going to be in charge of moving the work along. So that's usually one or two key contacts in the marketing team. But also let's make sure that we are involving somebody who will then have to have final approval of the deliverables from this engagement. Let's bring them in early and let's make sure we're involving them, as well as the people who will be in charge of executing the plan. So it's good to have people with knowledge, and it's good to have people who are going to support the actual process of developing marketing plan, but afterwards somebody needs to approve it and somebody needs to execute on it. So it's very helpful for us to think about involving them early so they know what to expect when they receive the end product. That's good. That could include your leadership team. It could include your implementation team, maybe your sales force, and also sometimes your customers. Customers can be involved through different methodologies. We often use questionnaires. They can be programmed online. It's very easy to develop a report out of that with AI capabilities. Now you can even discern some of the tones that you receive, so it's very helpful. We also like running planning sessions when we have key decision makers. Usually this is not necessarily for the customers, but for the internal team in the room, and have those conversations with them, gain consensus. And it's also helpful for you to think about having some early presentations set up. So as you're developing your marketing plan, you sometimes want to say, we have something half done. Can we put it in front of you and ask certain questions from you? And that's how you gain some more insights from some of your leaders and also bring them in the loop early on. So it allows for the last presentation, or the most important one that you're going to have, to be that much more successful. Now let's ask you a question. I talked a lot. This is going to be about you and your marketing planning process. So if you were to be running your marketing planning process today, who would you need to involve? Who would you be involving? Give it another few seconds. That's a bit of a longer list of options. Oh, and you can choose multiple choices. Feel free to choose as many of these as you think would be beneficial for your organization's purposes. Okay, great. Well, it's no surprise that 64% are saying their CEO or executive leadership would be involved. We very often actually recommend that. That's very helpful. They often also come with a lot of knowledge and past information. I also see some people have chosen customer service or sales team or product or service delivery team. It's interesting because sometimes you don't think about them. When you're thinking marketing, you think that's something that you should put in front of them. But it's always helpful for us to think of, especially like customer service people, as the ones that are most often in front of your customers or audiences. The knowledge that they gain just by being in contact with them is like firsthand communication information that you can grab. So it's very helpful. And of course, board of directors. I see here organizations that have board of directors. Marketing ends up being an important component that they want to involve them sometimes. Thank you for your responses. Okay. The last piece of these of this list that we call core components of your marketing plan is implementation chart. It's good to have a strategy, but sometimes that strategy sits on a shelf. So to make it actionable, we recommend implementation pieces to be put in. One easy way to do that is a Gantt chart that can be developed, and it kind of has the pieces together for each of the tactics that you now know you're going to do or is approved in budget and in scope. then you want to kind of think about the milestones for that tactic and who is responsible for which piece, and then timeline and final delivery. So something like this, this is just an example of a Gantt chart. It's a simpler one. Where would some of the efforts fit? What are some of the steps for each of the tactics? And let's make sure that we are kind of charting that in an implementation chart that we can follow as a team. It always makes it that much more actionable when you put it that way. So here we go. We have 6 hallmarks of effective marketing planning that we took you through, each kind of relevant to one piece or pieces of our marketing plan. And it helps you kind of guide you through the path you need to take to develop your marketing.
Perfect. Thank you, Faramir. As Faramir said a little earlier, one of my favorite quotes is "Simplicity is the ultimate form of sophistication" by Leonardo da Vinci. And to me, plans are hard, and doing simple ones are even harder. But they are also the most effective way to achieve your goals. Having a written plan greatly increases the odds of achieving and helps others get you there and reduces stress, in my opinion. So before we get to questions, which I invite you to submit through the Q&A, I did want to provide a couple of additional thoughts on the topic. The right plan poorly executed is likely better than the wrong plan well executed. By that, I mean, if you're going to execute something and do an awesome job at it, but if it's the wrong plan of action, you might want to rethink things. And that's one of the sort of impetuses for the importance of planning and why we're so adamant on them. So do it with purpose and be mindful of it and make sure that you're developing it very considerately. Be focused on your goals and work backwards. Ask questions on your audience, their pain points, and your vision and your realistic budget, and then align them. The better you do this, the easier the revenues will come. And then third, marketing is not a jack of all trades profession. Internal teams have certain capabilities, certain capacity and efficiencies, but it's near impossible for them to be the masters of it all. Leverage the team, yes, but complement them with experts in things they are not the best at and that are super important. So last is our offer. We do have an offer for, you can sign up for our newsletter. We have a 1 hour, no obligation a consultation we can provide. Of course, we're going to have this video available afterwards, and the PowerPoint's also available. And so now we have a few time for a few questions. We actually had quite a number of them from the last session we ran in August, so I might point to those or to the ones here. So I'm going to start with one from last time, which was, what's the difference between a strategic plan and a marketing plan? Strategy goes beyond marketing. It's ops, finance, HR. It sets overall direction and priorities for the business, whereas marketing plans are generally lead generation and branding related. They focus only on how you'll attract and keep customers. It covers things like lead gen, brand building, communications, and campaigns that support the strategic goals. So it's a microcosm of the overarching strategy. Just going to check to see.
Yeah, we have 2 questions. One says, at some point we must go from internal marketing to seeking external assistance. What are some indicators of this threshold?
I'm not sure if you want to start, Faramir, or if you want me to start.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Well, I think a couple of them that come to my mind. First off, is if growth is stalled, oftentimes we find a lot of clients are sort of repetitively doing their marketing year upon year, and they find that growth has sort of stalled over time. So those are kind of 2 different dynamics. One is a sort of fresh approach to things, or perhaps there's missing skills within the team. But one of the insights is just that growth is stalled, and there needs to be a sort of impetus to finding a new way. An outside sort of perspective is helpful. If there's inconsistency or mixed messages in the market, if you find ads or call it the in-person experiences and the online experiences, and call it the brand is sort of inconsistently executed in the market, and perhaps the quality of it isn't in alignment with the quality of the company, that's another component. And then the last I would just say is, marketing is one of those professions that's always changing. and staying up to date with the latest trends, the latest channels can be burdensome. We have the good fortune of having different departments, and we give them some time to investigate those channels, and they're up to date on things. So when, I don't know, X launches or the latest social trend or new media partners come out with new programs, we're able to stay on top of those. So, and that can be challenging for companies that are tend to be busy with their businesses. So that'd be my start. I don't know if you had anything to add there, Fairmere.
Yeah, I guess what I could add is, well, sometimes organizations just realize that they need something a bit more specialized, and agencies often have those specialized people in place, or, specific expertise in certain areas. But the other way that we often see we can add value is when marketing teams find that they cannot get things approved, or it's not easy for them to get their leaders sort of engagement or involvement. That's very often when a third party can enter the conversation, and that allows for an extra perspective. Kind of hearing similar things from external parties allows for leaders to see it with a fresh eye. So very often we tell our customers, our clients, how can we make you look better, right? How can we make sure that you are able to make a case with your leaders for approvals if you need them, or for the next thing that you want to create in this organization.
Good point.
What else do we have? How much does a marketing plan generally cost if we hire an agency?
I guess, like a lot of things, it depends on quite a few things. First is the scope. Some companies have one clear audience, some have two, some have more. Basic plans that are kept simple to more advanced ones with a multitude of factors. Depending also on the condition of the brand, because if some of the brand assets exist, things like brand strategy or positioning exist, writing the plan can be a lot easier. But if that has to be added into the plan, that adds to the complexity and the scope. One of the other dynamics has to do with it being an investment, not an expense, because a lot of times business leaders think of it as, I have to spend 10,000 to get a plan, but the benefit, the ROI on that oftentimes is over, say, a 5 to 10 year horizon, not just a singular fiscal year. So those are considerations that one needs to make sure. And then they're very flexible and customizable. So we do plans anywhere from $10,000 to $40,000. I think one of the biggest components is research, which being, when we do surveys of customers or interviews with customers or even surveys of internal teams, which are all very beneficial. There's a lot of insights that come from those tools, but they do add to the cost of them and to the time of it. So, our sort of internal rule is, a simple plan is better than no plan. And of course, more resources that can be applied increases the likelihood of success and goal attainment. So, that's sort of my answer. I don't know if you have anything to add there, Fairmere.
Yeah, very often the first conversations we have with your organizations would give us all the clues we need. We might ask certain questions, and sometimes we hear, I don't know, that's a great question. We're not sure about that. Or, comments like, we have been doing this for some time. Does it work? We don't know. So it's helpful for us to kind of hear where you are. Sometimes it's as easy as organizing what has been happening in the past and making sure it's directional towards the goals that you have. Sometimes you come with total different goals, and you have kind of been moving towards certain things that may not necessarily be the direction you want to go. So those initial conversations allows us to tell you, this is a smaller effort. You do need to do research, or you do not need to do research. You seem to have the knowledge internally. I have more questions here. So we talked about research. I'm gonna, if you feel like you have more questions about research, please let us know. How do you personally decide what goes into the now bucket versus the later bucket when building a marketing plan? It's a good question.
I guess I'll start again. It's a great question. My quick answer is two things. One is We like to prioritize the tactics based on their effectiveness and return on investment. So start at the top and work your way down. So that's one lens. And then, of course, the other one is the budget. If the client is a $5 million company with a, say, $100,000 marketing budget, you really have to be very mindful of that and make sure that you're devoting the resources in the right way. And you have to really go top down. So, it's a careful cadence. It's more art than it is science. One of the other lenses I like to use is digital versus offline versus experiential. And so, from some of the research I've done, companies have devoted somewhere between 35 and 50% of their budgets to what would be called online. So online being email, social, paid advertising, those kinds of considerations. Offline being billboards, bus benches, direct mail, sales sheets, what have you. Signage is another good one as well. Which, signage I would argue is a sort of a bigger sort of upfront cost. I would, like the plan itself, I would say amortizes over, call it a longer period of time, because you may have to spend 20, 30, 40, $50,000 for signage, but it's there for, probably 10 years plus. So that might, you might have to argue that over with the leadership to say, yes, it might come out of your current fiscal, but the benefit period is longer, so it shouldn't pull down your annual marketing spend that way. Anyway, a little offside there, but I hope that answers your question. Fairmere, if you have anything to add.
Maybe a bit of a kind of reword, but well, efficiency is also very important, right? So sometimes there's just a more efficient way of developing pieces. So if you have this foundational piece in place, the next one would be easier to develop, or you don't need to reinvent and go back. So that also plays a role in which ones are now and which ones are later. For example, if we are adjusting your brand strategy, that better be done before the campaign creative is already designed, right? Because that can be not an efficient way of moving forward if we do that backwards. Have closely followed 6P as a sales and marketing professional. Last week, I saw a post on LinkedIn showing a client 5 million views. What marketing strategy has always worked for you guys when it comes to social media?
I would assume the comments aren't connected, because I can't imagine we would have assured a client of 5 million views, but somebody did. Hopefully that wasn't us, and if it is, please let me know. When it comes to social media, what has worked? I like to go back to Faramir's earlier slides on target audiences and personas and profiling. You really have to know your audience and what they're looking for, and connecting with them beyond simply a business logic rationale, get into the emotional dynamics a little bit more. And I know that's very hard when it's a very B2B kind of experience, but one of my rules is people buy from people. And whether it's a B2B or B2C environment, you have to connect with them in some way, shape, or form. Oftentimes your salespeople are doing it. And yes, it does take some confidence and a bit of luck and a bit of risk. Doing it smart can pay very big dividends. So I'm a fan of just get out there and try things, move it forward one step at a time, do it responsibly. But and just going a little more specific, I'm a fan of contests. There's a lot of categories of content and online experiences that most people just get busy doing what they do. Things like case studies, stories of clients and the successes that you've done with them, contests related to the product or category you're doing, just noting the things you're doing. If your team went to a golf tournament, simply taking a photo and posting it, just showing that the company is active, it's engaged in the industry, it's connecting with its audiences and active. The bars, I'm going to say, pretty low generally for businesses. Most aren't doing it. Those that do are doing better than those that aren't. And so, sort of my default answers to that. I don't know if you had anything to add there for me.
Yeah, we have seen a lot of success with genuine content as opposed to, well-designed not that well designed is bad. But the point is that if you have user-generated content, if you have genuine stories, that often gets you more engagement. What else? Yes, contests we have had a lot of work with. Usually counting on people's pride towards their own ownership or work. So in B2B, sometimes it's helpful to set up some sort of contest that would allow for businesses or for business owners or for, we work with a lot of agri-food organizations, farmers, to be able to have a medium to talk about how proud they are about their farms, about their operations. That sometimes kind of gets you that genuine engagement much easier than you know some generally generic topics.
And the last thing before we go is, I think a good testament is just be where your audience is. I mean, a lot of times people are trying to be in all places all the time, whereas if you're simply B2B, be at LinkedIn. It's just make sure that you're doing a good job there. Don't necessarily just diversify yourself too thinly. So, all right, we are now at 11. I do respect your time and want to thank you very much for attending. Hopefully you got some good value out of this. And of course, if you have any questions, either shoot Faramir or I a question. Thank you so much and have a great day.